Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have one of the most fascinating shows I've had in a long time today. You know, everybody is very interested, of course, in what they're reading about tokens. And sometimes people don't really know what they are. Sometimes people do know what they are. It's sort of this new sort of technology that's happening that some people are really leading the pack on. And we've been able to invite a real leader in the space. His name is Mr. Ron Lasorsa. Ron is the managing general partner of the Victory Litigation Fund. And what he's been able to put together, I mean, we're going to get into his background and experience in a minute because it's just vast, of course. And what he's been able to do is take his background, his experience, his expertise. He's really one of the worldwide leaders at what he does. So hold on, everybody. I mean, kick back in your chair because you're going to learn a lot today. He has a tokenized venture fund. It's really for litigation finance. We're going to get into it, you know, very, very deeply, but the Victory Litigation Fund really invests in venture equity opportunities in the legal services marketplace. It's a great idea. He's one of the leaders in this space, probably the preeminent expert. So I'm so happy to have him on the show. Ron, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Andy, thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction. And I'm really excited to share this opportunity with your viewers, only because we have the ability to make such a significant impact in the life of veterans. And I'm not only am I proud, I'm excited to be able to take care of the veterans the way that we're able to. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you on the show. I mean, of course, you've got your shirt on, and you know you're probably wearing the shirt. There's so much going on with Victory Litigation Fund. Before we get started, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Let's simplify what the Victory Litigation Fund is. Then we'll get into your background experience and why it's all coming together to help the veterans.
Okay, fantastic. Let me try to simplify this as much as possible. So I'm going to assume that because about $50 million of advertising has gone into this, people are going to see the Camp Lejeune water contamination litigation case. It is the largest lawsuit in American history, and it's one of the very few instances where the American government is allowing itself to be sued, right? In this instance, the Victory Litigation Fund is a synthetic law firm. In essence, think of all of the law firms that you see running those ads, all right, have lawyers who are going to prosecute the cases being funded by hedge funds. And in those hedge funds, you have high net worth individuals who are going to make a lot of money. So you have hedge funds and high net worth individuals going to make a lot of money, funding law firms that are going to make a lot of money at the expense of veterans. And what my platform has the opportunity to do is fund it with veterans for veterans, right? So many, many different advantages where we have a competitive advantage, the Victory advantage over other law firms and hedge funds. And I can revenue share through the token with active duty and retired troops, people who would never have the opportunity to participate in this ever before. And Andy, the thing that I want to bring up is this concept of conscious capital, right? Right now, hedge funds and VCs and family offices have been able to pick and choose the opportunities, right? And because of my experience in the space, because of litigation finance is so competitive, I just got rejected by a broker dealer who thought my deal was so risky. And so what I had to do, Andy, is come up with a way as a Marine to improvise, adapt, and overcome and gain access to the marketplace. So I came up with this concept of conscious capitalism, conscious capital, where I can go to veterans' rights organizations, right? Grunt Style Foundation, right? Or religious organizations, right? Where donors want to, instead of make money, they want to make a difference. And Andy, today, I just raised on one call $225,000 from an Army veteran. One call. He said, I love what you're doing. How much do you need? Now, I have an email from an institutional broker-dealer who rejected my deal with far more information because I'm too controversial. Who do you think I want to market to? Who do you think I want to share this revenue with? Conscious capitalists, people who want to make a difference, not make money. And so I'm prepared to be very competitive in the space, Andy, on behalf of veterans, on behalf of American taxpayers, and on behalf of my investors. So I'm very excited to share this opportunity, Andy.
Ron, it's so interesting. And a lot of people don't know it. So you've seen all the commercials on TV. You can't go online without something popping up, of course, Ron. And what a lot of people don't know, I would say probably the majority of people seeing those commercials about the Camp Lejeune situation is that they're basically funded, what you're saying, by hedge funds. And hedge funds are sort of making a lot of the money with the attorneys. And you've found a different way. You're funding it by vets for vets. Let's get into that because that's super interesting, the way in which you sort of turn the entire model on its head. I mean, congratulations on that. Let's talk about that and sort of extrapolate that out a little bit more. How does somebody reach out to you? What's that conversation sound like for people that want to be involved with what you're doing to advance social justice in a meaningful way?
So again, Andy, are you familiar with Usaa? It is an insurance company based in San Antonio. It's insurance it started out as military officers, but then it expanded to all military and their families. I've been a member for 35 years. And it's that sort of loyalty. Now, what we're going to do is this is going to be a law firm for veterans, focusing on veterans' causes. And so in terms of my clients, the PACT Act that was just passed, that is part of this Camp Lejeune litigation, that opens the door to veterans, millions of veterans, receiving benefits from the government because they've been poisoned, right? Veterans have the dubious distinction of not only risking their lives knowingly in combat, but then carrying, in many instances, poisons from exposure. I myself have significant heavy metal exposure known as Gulf War syndrome. That's how I got this fantastic haircut. After coming back from combat, I lost my hair as a young man in 2 years, right? Gulf War syndrome, nobody knew anything about it. I was literally sick. I had no idea, nobody cared. And here I am. And now, decades after the fact, the government is taking responsibility. This litigation, while I'm grateful for it, the Camp Lejeune litigation is flawed in the sense that it doesn't go far enough, right? I was stationed at Camp Lejeune from 90 to 94. I was the base commanding general's aide de camp. I had 2 children born, both while I was there and afterwards. And neither of my children qualify because this law was written by trial attorneys, right? So I have a unique perspective in the market in that I am a veteran. I have been subjected to the poisoning. My family has been affected, and I can do something meaningful about it, Andy, and I intend to do so.
I love it. I mean, on the show, Ron, as you know from watching the interviews and watching the show and listening to the show on the podcast as well, we like to say that success leaves clues. And a lot of times when we look at entrepreneurs, you have to look at their past experience to understand where they're at in their lives and where they're going on a go forward. Now, if I spend the entire 30 minutes talking about your background and experience in this space, I'm going to be here for the full 30 minutes. You're not even going to have a chance to speak. But one thing that really came very clear to us, of course, in the litigation finance space, your experience is vast. I mean, you had an incredible exit, of course. Let's talk about that just a little bit. So for the people watching the show, when they're hearing what you're saying, they know that there's a lot of sort of oomph behind it in your past experience. So I want to give you a chance really to talk about that single transaction that you did with Alpha Law and what that was all about.
Sure. That was a very controversial transaction. And for those of your listeners unfamiliar with litigation finance, oh my God, I love this asset class. It is the most competitive, most lucrative, most litigious asset class, not for the faint of heart. It is a very small marketplace, and it is populated with some of the most intelligent, greedy, and cutthroat competitors. And God help me, Andy, I love it so much. I have gotten my ass kicked continuously for the last 6 years, and I consider it boot camp, right? Every ding I've received, I am grateful for, because I can draw it to, it's like Slumdog Millionaire, right? Did you ever see that movie?
Yes.
I am the Slumdog Millionaire that finds myself in the unique position based upon a series of tragic events. Alpha Law being case in point, where I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I had an idea. I found out about this. In fact, Mass Torts Made Perfect is this grand confab of this very rarefied group. It's going to be about 2,000 of the most wealthy attorneys in the country gathering in Las Vegas. I wandered into that event 6 years ago and kind of put this thing all together. But that Alpha Law transaction, I was able to originate over 15,000 leads in transvaginal mesh. These are women who had been affected by a defective medical device. And it was a very aggressive strategy. We spent about just about $9 million or $7 million in partner equity. And then we borrowed about $9 million from one of the largest institutional lenders, right? And we flipped that docket for $40 million, which is about a 2.5x in less than a year. And looking back on it, the after action report, it was horrible. It got engaged in litigation. About 3,000 plaintiffs had their awards diminished because of third-party bad actors. And in the military, we're much more accustomed to deviation from the plan, right? Whereas institutional investors might see that as a flawed transaction. And in fact, Gertchen Keller was a private litigation finance company that lent $50 million. And because that deal went south, they actually had to sell themselves to Burford, right? So from their perspective, it was a horrible transaction. From my perspective, it was fantastic because it showed me that law firms were assets with predictable value. And as a trader, now I can trade law firms. That's what I'm going to do, Andy. I build law firms and I'm going to trade them through the tokens.
Wow.
Yeah.
So powerful, so advanced. When I think about it, Ron, you have so much experience, but yet I look at your view as being what I would call non-traditional. You have a non-traditional view on really the market demands that's really reshaping what I call the 21st century deliverables of legal services. Was it your work at the Marines? Was it your working at the military that allowed you to have this more non-traditional viewpoint that allowed you to be a success and succeed in your current Victory Litigation Fund? What was it that kind of turned you on to being not following in the normal path of what people would normally follow?
It's actually a multidisciplinary approach, Andy, in the sense that, yes, this is not a business plan, it's a battle plan. And I view the combination of the tokenized litigation or the tokenized venture fund in combination with an Arizona ABS is kind of like the air-land combination of the Marine Corps, right? Because now you have law firms supported by hedge funds, but I have a vertically integrated combined arms platform. So that's why it doesn't make sense to, institutional investors. They don't get it. It's a battle plan, number one. Number two, it's not cutting edge in the sense that I spent 12 years on Wall Street in prime brokerage. I'm applying a prime brokerage business model to the legal services marketplace. And that's why I'm completely comfortable with the business model, but lawyers have no idea what I'm talking about. And I love it, Andy. I love it in the sense that I'm the one-eyed man in the land of the blind. I have moves that they've never seen, and therefore I refer to it as the unfair advantage because they don't know what's coming at them. They don't know. But with this interview, this is my introduction. Hi, folks. I am the apex predator that you never knew about.
That's really interesting, Ron. When you think about it and you look at the size and you look at the amount of money, I mean, how does your system, how does the Victory Litigation Fund really make sure that you're taking care of the taxpayers? Because I know in the past there's been some fraud in some of these big litigations, but in your particular case, you're really taking care of the taxpayer.
Yes, Andy, that's an important distinction. Again, while we are taking care of veterans and we want to get them the highest legal awards possible, there's a huge potential for waste, fraud, and abuse in this because the legislation was written, really, it's a raid on the Treasury. And I won't criticize the litigation. I'm grateful that the Marines are going to get justice. But these law firms and hedge funds really have the opportunity to rip off the taxpayer. And I've come up with a system that will mitigate all of that. Now, I'll draw your attention to the BP oil spill back in the early 2010 teens, however you refer to that. But in 2015, there was one law firm out of San Antonio, Texas, that was prosecuted for submitting 40,000 fraudulent claims. Everybody can go and look and see who they were. And the attorney defended himself and proved that he himself was defrauded, that the lead vendor had delivered 40,000 fraudulent claims. My system will completely mitigate that opportunity, right, by making sure everybody goes through basic KYC and AML. And Andy, there's a role, it's called quitem relator, right? It's Latin for he who sues for the king and himself. And I, Andy, am going to be quitem relator in this, in that I'm going to play it down the middle. And if I find using my system that law firms or hedge funds are trying to defraud the public, I'm going to make sure that they're prosecuted with the government. I'm going to show the government how to catch the bad actors. That's my role, Andy. I'm acting on behalf of veterans and I'm acting on behalf of American taxpayers, not on my watch.
Wow, so powerful. I love the approach. Let's talk about it because right now, if somebody wants to invest in the Victory Litigation Fund through the tokenization of what you're offering, do they need to be an accredited investor? And where does it go from here for people that maybe aren't accredited?
Certainly. So again, thank you for that. Right now, I have a $15 million Reg D offering you can go to the victorydefi.com website and view the Invest Now button. However, Andy, I'm being very exclusive in who I offer these first 15 million tokens to, in the sense that I'm actively marketing to attorneys that are not mass tort attorneys, because I'm going to build it's going to be called lawyersforjustice.com. It is a national directory and teaching platform where I'm going to teach attorneys, forward-thinking attorneys, how to achieve a competitive advantage in their local marketplace utilizing the Victory Advantage. So I'm selling tokens to accredited investors because I want to turn them into clients. That's number one. Number two, I'm completely bypassing institutional capital. I don't want to take money from hedge funds or family office or VCs, right? why do I want to make another asset manager look good on my back, right? I want to deal with conscious capital. I want to deal with veterans rights organization. Again, Grunt Style Foundation is this group was instrumental in getting the PACT Act approved. Their donors deserve the 10x on the token that I'm going to provide, right? Why do I want to make rich guys more rich? I want to put this money back into the military community, number one. Number two, I'm here in Southwest Florida, right? Hurricane Ian just blew through. We put this off a week because I didn't have power. But my church literally served thousands of people, right? And tens of millions of dollars in donations came in. I can provide a sustainable development fund for those faith-based organizations so that when the time comes, they can use the money more productively than lawyers going out and buying a fifth or sixth house or buying their own frickin' plane. That disgusts me. I would rather take my skills and give back to the community that serves me than make these guys rich. So that's my business model, Andy.
It's very interesting. Let's break it down a little bit more. Let's even simplify it a little bit more, because people might be watching. They still might have some more questions. So let's just break it down a little bit more easily. So really high level, like the KISS principle about the Camp Lejeune situation, how people invest in the Victory Litigation Fund, a regular vet, a vet that just wants to invest. And then how does it work? Like, how does he get paid through what avenue? Let's break it down real simply for the people watching the show.
Right. So this is one can't say that any situation is risk-free, right? You can't do it. Life is full of risks. This is a private placement memorandum, so I have to list all of the disclosures, right? However, Camp Lejeune, the PACT Act, is signed into law. There are many different nuances, right? But from an investment perspective, that's pretty secure, number one. Number two, I'm performing services on behalf of law firms that I've done 50,000, and I have the verification that I've done this, right? So I know what I'm doing. Number two, I have a contract with a law firm. It's called a management services agreement that says they will pay me 10x the final cost of acquisition, the FCOA, right? Dollar in, investor gives me $1. I have a contract with a law firm that he's going to pay me 10. That's purchase order financing, right? You can't get any more secure than that. The token is a blockchain digital representation of a real world asset. It is, and the reason it's ethical, most often you can't share legal fees, but this is not legal fees. These are performance fees. It is a derivative thereof, right? So it's pristine. The token, you buy it. On the Reg D, it has a 1-year lockup. On Reg A, they're immediately tradable, but right now they're Reg D. So they go to Victory DeFi, they press the Invest Now button, they go through the KYC, know your client, anti-money laundering, right? Which is a critical distinction, Andy. And again, this is a point I want to make. Remind me of this. That KYC AML process makes this the ethical high watermark in litigation finance. Because none of those other hedge funds, none of those other law firms, the SEC just put out a guidance letter looking for more transparency in litigation finance, right? Because they know it's a dark pool of money. Who is going to benefit on the backs of veterans? What overseas entity, right? We don't know because nobody's asked the question, right? I'm going to provide that granular transparency so we know exactly who's participating, right? And as I said, I'm going to make sure that veterans are the vast preponderance of the participants in this, right?
Yeah.
So, and because these are tokens, once they're freely tradable, they're tradable like stocks, right? And if you have a 10x on it, the way my token is going to work, it's evergreen in the sense that on a 10x return, I'm going to pay out 5 and reinvest 5. Now, it is a synthetic plaintiff's law firm. It is the most profitable business entity in the world. And that's why these plaintiffs' lawyers are all multimillionaires and billionaires. Okay?
Wow.
And
yeah.
I'm going to share that economic model with unaccredited investors, veterans specifically.
Powerful. I mean, it's fantastic because you just hit on something. I mean, all this money set aside. We have all these vets that have had challenges through this situation, including yourself, of course. And when you think about it, the way in which it's set up right now is that it's easy for foreign actors, even foreign adversaries, to start dipping their toe into this fund because of the way in which it's all structured, right?
Look, all right, so this is publicly disclosable. Fortress, everybody's heard the name Fortress. How much Chinese money does Fortress have? I'm just asking the question. I have no idea, right? My system, we'll look under the hood. Let's see how much Chinese money Fortress has. You want to play in Camp Lejeune? Come through the gauntlet. Let's see.
I love it. It's so interesting. Yeah, you're setting up something that's never really been set up before based on, it almost seems to me like, Ron, everything you've done in your life, everything from being in the Marines, of course, to having some of the, possible challenges with regard to the Camp Lejeune situation, and then all of the other jobs and places where you've worked, the big, Fortune 500 companies to, being involved with the law space and the marketing space, and now with your litigation fund, it seems like everything you've done throughout your life really points to this one moment in time that really you've put everything together that you've learned into sort of what I'm calling, or you've called, the synthetic plaintiff's law firm, which I love so much. That really puts it all together quite simply. When we think about it, and we think about the vets, and let's talk about them a little bit, because you see the commercials on TV, and you're seeing the attorneys talk, and they have spokespeople speak and everything else going on, but it's really the vets. It's really the ones that are suffering from this. Let's point to that. I know you've spoken with some of them that have been negatively impacted. Where are they? Where's their headspace? Where are they at with regard to what's happened to them as a result of the water in this situation?
Well, again, that's what's being lost in all of this, the real impact on the vets. The law firms and the hedge funds see this as the rate on the treasury that it is. That it's a direct transfer of wealth from the American taxpayer to some of the wealthiest individuals. And so our fund not only has the ability to take care of the veteran, but also the American taxpayer through the systems. So first and foremost, veterans, if you look on any of the social media boards, are very, very resistant to paying the 40% fee, right? I just told an attorney today, one of the largest attorneys in the space, you're going to want to pay 25%. And the reason I'm going to make sure that no law firms gets paid more than 25% on this tort. Do you know why, Andy?
Why?
Because when a client signs up with a law firm, they're not chattel. They can take their case anywhere. And if they sign a case at 40%, they can move that case to another attorney at 25%. That's a discount bid on a trading desk. These law firms have never seen anything like that, right? I'm telling you right now, the fee in this is going to be 25% because I say so.
I love it. I love it. I mean,
because on $1 million fee, Andy, let's just say $1 million fee, 40%, that's $400,000 going to the law firm, $600,000 going to the veteran. At 25%, that's $250,000 going to the law firm, right? $750,000 going to the veteran. What's better for the veteran, Andy?
Yeah, more money.
More money. More of the money that they paid for,
right,
with their blood.
Right.
What the hell did that attorney do for that extra 15%? Nothing.
Right. It's very powerful when you think about it, Ron. You watch TV and you see these nationwide commercials, and you have to say to yourself, there has to be so much money in this for the people doing the advertising, and that you just kind of pulled the lens back. I mean, 40% of the fee, where you're going to get it down to 25%. That's a huge opportunity for the vets, and that's meaningful for the people that have been negatively impacted from the situation. So I think it's very conscious of you to want to give back through the litigation fund. Very, very interesting. Let's talk about the Marines. Let's talk about the experience. When you come through the Marines and you go into business, you get done and you decide you're going to be an entrepreneur. What do you bring with you? Like, what are the true things that you've been able to learn as a Marine that you've really put into place as an entrepreneur?
I said it earlier: improvise, adapt, and overcome. Right? No battle plan. Last past first contact. Right? You have to be able to change on the fly, and that's really what's characterized my time in litigation finance. Coming up against resistance and finding a way to do what's best for the plaintiff. Right? And so, my track record is all of the documents are adversarial, right? Every deal I've done has ended up in litigation, and only because it's been so profitable and the parties have been so greedy, right? And so each of those knife fights has given me significant skills. And honestly, without all of the adversarial litigation, I would not have come up with this platform. So again, I'm grateful for it. Whereas most people look back and say, I right now I have a couple of $1 million in liens, and like I said, a institutional broker dealer passed on me, but that's only because I'm about to launch a counterattack with bar complaints and a number of other actions. I'm going to make money on that trade. And that's what litigation finance is. We sue each other for money. And it is beyond, the kin of most institutional investors who want NFTs or software as a service company. No, keep your money, right? Keep your money. If you want to make a difference, come to me. If you want to invest in shoes or paintings, go somewhere else, right? I'm a serious guy doing serious shit.
I like it. Improve, adapt, overcome. For the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Ron just said about that, and what he said earlier in the interview as well, because that's really the sign of a great entrepreneur as well. You want to continually improve, you want to continually adapt to the situation, and you want to overcome the types of challenges that come your way, because in business, they all come your way, whether it's, a very litigious, thing that you have to overcome, or just the changes of the market or the changes of your business. Entrepreneurs need to overcome things all the time. And of course, the military is a great place to learn how to do that, Ron. I mean, it's really interesting. Before I let you go, I want to talk to the younger entrepreneurs. They're going to rewind what you just said about improving, adapting, and overcoming. But I also want you to talk to the younger entrepreneurs that are maybe having a tough time right now. They've heard what you said. They need to improve, they need to adapt, and they need to overcome. But I also want to give you a chance to talk to them about what it takes really to keep on pushing, what it takes to get through a tough time in business, what it takes to get knocked down, dust off your knees, and keep on pushing, what you've done throughout your entire career. What can you tell to the younger entrepreneurs with that regard?
Again, thank you. This is a powerful opportunity. What I would say is, when you've been knocked on your ass, get up and then try to help somebody else get up, right? Because the fact of the matter is that the act of getting up already distinguishes you from the average person, right? Let's be blunt. Being an entrepreneur puts you in a minority. Doesn't matter what your skin color, gender, faith, political persuasion. If you're an entrepreneur, you're part of a rarefied club, right? And being part of that club gives you a certain obligation to help those beneath you. It's only through the example that I was inspired. As I said, every knife fight taught me something. And now I can take my experience and I can share it with that younger generation, because I'm definitely extending my hand down, primarily to military veterans. So the website that I'm on, that I listed my deal on, Local Vest, it is a crowdfunding website for service academy graduates. It's about 5,000 Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force, Coast Guard, Merchant Marine, service academy graduates who are business owners and also accredited investors. And that's my first money. And the genesis story of Victory Litigation, I'm starting it with military officers. That was my first money in. That's military officers are going to lead the charge, because that's what officers do. Wow. And as I said, I just had an Army guy who I'd never spoken to before today say, "What do you need?" I named a number and he's writing me a check. That's the power of conscious capitalism. That right there. That's my tribe, Andy.
I love it. I mean, the officers are leading the charges. They always do in the battle. You said something that really resonated for me, and something that I had not heard from another entrepreneur that I just love so much. And I just want to say it out loud again, because it really, really impacted me just now. And I know I've kept you over time today, but I love the interview and I love what you're doing. You said something really powerful. You said, not only get up, but get up and then help somebody else get up. Such a powerful thing. I've interviewed so many high profile and interesting and strong people throughout the years, but that's the first time I've heard that. Besides get up, look around and help somebody else get up. I love that, Ron. And that's really the makeup of your entire business. I love it.
That's the grunt style. That's what infantry Marines do. You help the guy next to you. And that's what the business environment doesn't understand. And that's why, by populating my company with veterans, we have an unfair advantage. We've overcome adversity. This business stuff, it's bullshit. It does not matter. The guys that I'm dealing with, the guys that I'm working with, have put their lives on the line, Andy. Right? How can you compare to that? Culturally, I love the community. Being a veteran, right here in my heart, Andy. So veterans for veterans.